Come on. You guys out there, you're going to miss out. Okay. Is everybody having a good time at the conference? Yes? Good. Fantastic. This is actually not my first time in Armenia. It's my second time in Armenia. And the first time, I don't remember. I had so much Armenian wine, it's barely a memory. So it feels like the first time. It's fantastic. And I really enjoy it here. The architecture, amazing. Food, amazing. People, amazing. Everything's amazing. Kim Kardashian, amazing. Did we enjoy Kim Kardashian? Yeah? She was actually pretty good, right? I was thinking, you know, she sells makeup, great. What else? Clothes, great. Perfume, great. But she does do a tech game. And her tech game, Kim Kardashian Hollywood, we covered it on TechCrunch for a while, and it's actually hugely successful. So, and she was definitely very involved in that. So it wasn't something somebody just came up with. She definitely got involved very deeply with that. So well done to her. Good stuff. Well, I think what I'll do, my future career is I need to, you know, do some video or something. And that will help me in my career. Thank you, Kim, for the tips. Now, this session actually is going to be about the future of technology in terms of how on earth are we going to make it happen? Because one of the issues is that we can't necessarily rely on the internet working as advertised all the time. There is an issue, which is how do we make computing and technology work to actually deliver the future that everybody keeps talking about? Because if we can't do that, then the future doesn't arrive. So we're going to touch on some of those themes. We're going to get quite geeky. Are you ready to get geeky? Yeah? Good. Because geeky is good in tech, right? And so we're going to talk a lot about hardware and stuff like that, which would be quite geeky. But also about, you know, that future that's enabled by that hardware. But we're also going to look at the future. I mean, who's seen Minority Report? That's kind of an old movie. But there's a wonderful movie with lots of autonomous cars. It was developed with MIT called Minority Report. And it had these cars that drive themselves. And we all know that, you know, people are being killed by Teslas driving around, running into pedestrians. So autonomy is a big issue in terms of the future as well. And that's going to be touched upon by our keynote speaker. Now let me just introduce her. Cecilia Metra is the president of the IEEE Computer Society. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the largest computer society in the world. There's something like 83,000 members. So if there's a computer society you want to join, this is it, basically. Cecilia Metra, is a full professor at the University of Bologna, Italy. Bologna, Italy is an incredible university there. She's worked there since in the 90s. She's been since 2002, she was a visiting faculty consultant for Intel Corporation. This person knows what she's talking about. So, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Cecilia Metra. Round of applause. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Good afternoon to everybody, Badios Poloris, I think. Sorry. Okay, it's my great pleasure and honor to be here with you this afternoon to address together the technical challenges for electronic systems for a smarter world. So, as we all know, the microelectronic technology has evolved following the Moore law. Gordon Moore was one of the founders of Intel, and in 1965, he predicted that the number of devices integrated on the die would have more than doubled every 18 months. And as a matter of fact, since then, all semiconductor companies followed this law. he admitted he didn't intend to give a law. It was only a prediction, but by the fact that every semiconductor company followed it, it became a very famous law. And so right now, in the field of high-performance microprocessors, some semiconductor companies are into volume production for 10 nanometer CMOS technology and into risk production for 7 nanometer CMOS technology. Others claim that will enter into volume production for 10 nanometer CMOS technology by the end of this year. And they're also developing 7 nanometer CMOS technology and more. As you know, for those of you who may not be in the field, I would clarify nanometer is 10 up to the -9 meter. And so to give you an idea, 10 nanometer technologies is lower than 1/100th of the diameter of a virus. So we are very advanced in microelectronic technology. And this continuous miniaturization of microelectronic technology has enabled the massive and pervasive diffusion of electronics. We are surrounded by objects or things that contain electronic devices, and nowadays all these things can communicate to each other and be connected through the internet, creating this well-known Internet of Things. And these electronic devices that are connected together through the Internet of Things generate and exchange a huge amount of data. We talk a lot about big data. And to give you an idea, we are talking about 1.5 gigabyte of data per day, which is the traffic due to the Internet user, 3,000 gigabytes per day due to the smart hospitals. We are talking about 4,000 gigabytes per day due to autonomous vehicles, 40,000 gigabytes per day are the airplane data, and 1 million gigabytes per day is the amount of data due to smart factory. So lots of data that now are available to be collected and to be processed for machine learning and artificial intelligence. So everyone agrees that artificial intelligence will enable, hopefully, to have a smarter and better world. We are talking about smart in everything. We have smart things that, again, communicate to each other and exchange data, smart city environments, smart homes, smart driving, smart industry. And also from the financial point of view, there is the expectation of a huge investment on artificial intelligence from worldwide, from every state, every geographical area. And as you can see in this graph, all the investment on artificial intelligence from every geographical area is expected to increase by 2024. And if we think about the robotic fields, we expect to have a huge investment in autonomous mobile robots. Autonomous mobile robots that basically can have a level of autonomy comparable to autonomous vehicles. And there is a lot of expectations and investment in this field because these robots could substitute humans in hostile environments. And autonomous mobile robots are expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of over 14% throughout 2021. In the electronic field, among the 6 applications for electronics that are listed in this prediction, that are automotive, industrial, medicine, communication, consumer, government, military, and computer, the automotive application is the one that is expected to have the highest compound annual growth rate by 2021. And as we know, if we think about autonomous vehicles, the different level of autonomous capabilities and so intelligence have been formalized by the Society of Automotive Engineers as ranking from 0 to 5, where 5 corresponds to the level of highest autonomy, where the driver doesn't even need to be present on the vehicle. So we have a huge investment and lots of expectations for autonomous systems, robots, and vehicles for the upcoming years with an increasing level of autonomy. The technical problem is that the higher the level of autonomy of our intelligence systems, the stronger are the requirements in terms of reliability, safety, security, and time determinism of the adopted electronic systems. And as we know, we refer to security as the absence of unauthorized disclosure of information. We refer to safety as the absence of catastrophic consequences on the user and the environment. By time determinism, here we refer to the ability to enable synchronized low latency service, as we need to have in autonomous systems. And by reliability, we refer to the ability to guarantee the continuous correct service. So to enable higher levels of intelligence and thus autonomy, we need to guarantee high levels of reliability, of safety, of security, and time determinism of the adopted electronic systems. And these high levels of, let's say, reliability, safety, security, and time determinism need to be each one guaranteed. So this presents and opens lots of technological challenges. But in addition to these challenges, there is also the problem to guarantee that the strategies that are adopted to enable high reliability, safety, security, and time determinism interact each other in a non-destructive way. And this is also a big technical challenge. Because to give you an example, the techniques that we can adopt to meet this independent goal may interact each other in a positive way, as shown in this slide in green, as well as in a negative way. For instance, positive way, the detection of time violations can detect security threats. Safety mechanism can detect security threats. This is a constructive interaction. But we may also have that safety and security may conflict each other. For instance, safety mechanism can create backdoors for security threats, or security patch might violate safety. Or safety and time determinism may conflict each other, because, for instance, safety mechanism may corrupt time deadlines, or also safety may compromise availability if not properly implemented with reliability. So, we have several technical challenges to enable to increase the autonomy level of our autonomous systems, whether they are robots or vehicles, to enable a smarter and better world. And these are individual technological challenges for safety, reliability, security, and time determinism, as well as the coordination among these diverse features. And to address these different technological challenges within the computer society, we created a so-called special technical community on reliable, safe, secure, and time-deterministic intelligence systems. Every one of you who has a technical interest in this field is welcome to join us. Everyone can join at no fee. And the goal of this activity within the IEEE Computer Society has been really to create a community to address together these challenging technical issues. Because we believe that these issues, as well as all the ethical issues that are related to autonomous systems that we heard about also yesterday, cannot be solved by a single company alone, cannot be solved by a single institution or society alone. We really need to collaborate all together. And we need to consider that for this special technical community, we have so-called SEC core with representatives from industry. There is a lot of industrial engagement in this activity. The colleagues who accepted to be part of the ST core team, that could include only 8 experts, include our colleagues from NVIDIA, Intel, ST Microelectronics, Bombardier, Hitachi, and also Synopsys, and also ARM. So there is a lot of interest in this field, and in order to promote the cooperation on this technical issue, we also propose a project at the IEEE level that has been approved and funded as part of the IEEE Digital Reality Initiative at the IEEE. And we will have the first in-person meeting on reliable, safe, secure, and time-deterministic intelligence system that will be sponsored by the IEEE Digital Reality Initiative and by the Computer Society, and that will be organized with the support also of the University of Bologna School of Engineering and Department of Electronic Engineering, DI, and Automation, Guglielmo Marconi, and the DISI department. And this will take place in December 6, 2019 in Bologna, and you're also welcome to join. Again, the final goal is to create a community to address these challenges together. And we expect also to cooperate with the IEEE Global Initiative on Ethics for Autonomous and Intelligent Systems, and we will work on the development of new standards, an activity that we already started within the Computer Society on autonomous systems. Just a few words about the IEEE. The mission of the IEEE is to enable to advance technological innovation and excellence for the benefit of humanity. The IEEE has more than 421,000 members worldwide, 39 technical society. It covers 160 countries. It sponsors more than 1,600 technical conferences per year. And it has more than 3,900 technical documents and more than 170 periodicals. The Computer Society is the largest society within the IEEE. It has more than 84,000 members. It sponsors more than 200 conferences per year, whose number of attendees can arrive to 14,000 people. It's the size of our largest conference. We have 31 technical publications, peer-reviewed. We have 70 professional courses. We are active on more than 200 working groups on standards. We have 480 Computer Society chapters that mainly involve students and young practitioners that are distributed throughout 168 countries. And we also collaborate a lot with international organizations in computing. So going back to our challenge, the main risk for the high reliability, safety and security and time determinism for autonomous systems with high level of autonomy are due, and for their non-destructive interaction, are due to the possible occurrence of the so-called transient faults that may occur during the in-field operation of these systems and may compromise the correct operation by causing possible so-called soft errors, and aging phenomena that may also occur during the in-field operation of our electronic systems that could compromise the performance of our system and also result in an incorrect operation of our systems in the field. Just a few words for those of you who are in the field. Transient faults are voltage spikes due mainly to alpha particles that, as we know, are atoms of helium that lost the electrons that may be generated by various physical phenomena. And also they may be due to neutrons that can be originated by the collision of galactic cosmic rays and atmosphere atoms, mainly nitrogen and oxygen. So when this particle hit our electronics during its operation in the field, we have voltage spike that may be generated, and if they are propagated to the input of a sampling element and gas sample, we may have the generation of the so-called soft errors, which means that basically our circuit is not, or system is not operating as expected. And so of course, we will have risk for reliability, safety, security, and time determinism. Also, the so-called bias temperature instability is recognized as a major aging phenomena that is likely to affect our circuits while they operate in the field. It causes a degradation of the performance of our system, and again, it may give rise to incorrect data. And also, this aging phenomena is likely to increase the vulnerability of our electronic systems to giving rise to soft errors when affected by particle hits generating transient faults. So also aging constitutes a risk for the reliability, safety, security, and time determinism of our intelligent autonomous systems. So to conclude, there is a strong effort to implement more and more autonomous systems to enable a smarter world. We have strong requirements in terms of reliability, of safety, of security, and of time determinism of the used electronic systems. We need to collaborate all together to devise strategies that guarantee high levels of reliability, of safety, of security, and time determinism, one by one, of our electronic systems for autonomous robots and vehicles and, generally speaking, systems, despite the likely occurrence of transient faults and aging phenomena that may affect their correct operation in the field. And our strategy should also be able to interact each other in a constructive way, and for sure never in a destructive way. And these are relevant technical challenges that we will have to face, we are facing these days, and will have to face in the near future. And as I mentioned before, these add to all the ethical challenges that we have to address to really be able to create and to have more and more autonomous intelligent systems to make our world smarter and better for the benefit of humanity. That's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you so much, Cecilia Metra. Big round of applause. Please come over to where we're going to be doing the panel now. We have a treat for you because we're going to get deep in. There we go. Note. Here's a mental note. Always put the lady in the middle of the panel. Much better. Right, girls? Right. No, right, ladies? Now, let's hear now from our panelists. Big round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for Brian Lilly, former CPO of Equinox and board member of Lumentum and Talent. Brian is experienced technology executive, 25 years of experience, and working in Silicon Valley, and we'll hear from him shortly about some of that experience. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for, Ino Vine, who co-founder and president of Instigate Design. Ino has been in the technology industry since the 90s. I'm sure you all remember that. Next, let's get up Kirill, who's the head of the CIS office for the ITU. Kirill Operin has been working on standardization in telecommunications for many years. And now let's hear from, get up, Yerevan Zoryan, who's the chief architect of Synopsys, a Armenian technology company. Thank you so much. Welcome to our panelists. Now, the title, if you read your program of this session, is Bare Metal. Bare Metal. It sounds a bit crazy, doesn't it? Bare Metal Innovators. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, let's get one sentence definition from each panel, starting with you, sir. What is bare metal? One sentence.
Bare metal is the backbone of our electronic systems. It's the semiconductor infrastructure, it's the hardware.
That was 2 sentences. Sorry, but it sounds good. Next, Aubrey.
I think this is one of the possible hardware solutions for the backbone network and servers.
Bare metal is the programming of systems directly on the hardware, directly involving transistors, wires, and so on.
Yes?
I think bare metal refers to the hardware, and some agree, let's say, low level, so closer to the physical.
Okay. Brian?
I think bare metal is another tool in the toolkit for practitioners that have need for high performance applications, low latency, high security, where virtualization just doesn't cut it.
Well, there you go. No, now, the fascinating thing about this is because without the future software systems of the planet working very, very close to silicon, very, very close to hardware, with that low latency, we can't rely on the future of the 3G to do all of the heavy lifting that we're going to require for all of these autonomous systems and things like that. And I think I just want to pick up on something that you said, Cecilia, in your speech. You touched on Moore's Law, you touched on big data, 1 million gigabytes a day coming out of some of these smart systems, $10 billion globally spent on AI by 2024, invested, not just spent, but invested from day one. What speaks to you about this subject when you think about it in terms of, you know, you talked about reliability, and we're going to have enormous reliability if the future is going to arrive as advertised.
Yeah, so the predictions are that, as you thank you reported, given to more and more financial investment in this field, there will be a big effort to move to more and more autonomous systems. And the more we have a high level of autonomy, even from the point of view of standards, of course we should guarantee very high level of reliability, as you said. If you think about a vehicle that is driving by itself, it should be extremely reliable, very safe, and very secure. And from the technical point of view, these open challenges, because till now we are not yet at that level. And to be able to arrive there, we need to face these challenges. But again, a big challenge is, as was also discussed a lot yesterday, is that we have challenges in the technical field, which I try to address. We also have challenge on several other fields, ethical challenge also. And we really need to cooperate all together to make this technology work for the better of humanity.
Yes, absolutely. You know, you want to jump in?
In my point of view, reliability is one aspect, but what's at least as important to users is trust. How can I trust my device to do what I want it to do, and not what somebody else wants to do? And that somebody else could be anybody, could be a big corporation, could be a foreign government, it could be anybody who I don't trust. And how can you make sure? And the bare metal layer is the one that's essential to this, because any level of software above it can be tunneled at the bare metal layer, and the higher level software, let's say in Java or your browser or so, they don't even know that the layers underneath are spying and are doing something completely different than what you want.
And do you think that's a threat, state actors trying to get down to the transistor level of systems?
That's not just a threat, that's proven. Any modern CPU contains additional cores that are not even officially sold, but that do something that we don't actually know, and that is maybe benign and maybe not evil, but at least we don't know about it. And I think we need to build devices that can be trusted and that should not be doing things that we don't know about.
You had a point.
Yes, as we are shrinking the technology, we spoke about Moore's Law. As every year and a half we shrink the technology. Today we are already on 5 nanometer. 5 nanometer means a chip does not have a single transistor anymore. It has up to 20 billion transistors. To maintain the health of that 20 billion, it's not only upon manufacturing. During the life cycle of that chip, we need to be able to maintain the reliability, the safety of that chip. Especially that we're using those nodes in very critical products in our cars. Automotive machines today are using 7 nanometer chips in them. How can we ensure the reliability during the life cycle? That is the real challenge.
And well, how do you think we can ensure the reliability?
I think we can ensure the reliability by building in the necessary health components. the necessary correction, the necessary repair, the necessary error codes, the necessary safety and security during the design of the chip. So it's not something that we can do it afterthought. When we are designing the chips, we have to build the necessary intelligence in order to make it reliable, safe, and secure.
So it's all comes down to design.
Starts with the design, gets realized in manufacturing, but utilized during the life cycle every second.
Did you have a point, did you say? Or no?
No, I agree, absolutely. And part of the design has to be that it can be trusted, that there are not huge black boxes in the chips that are doing something that we don't know.
Well, yes, absolutely. So trust, again, you'll hear that word more than once on this panel. Kirill, what's your point?
I would support the word of trust, and as you see, I'm representing a more conservative part of this table. I'm with a suit and tie, so I'm representing international organizations, ITU. We are doing the standardization, regulatory, and this is exactly, I think, our key role, is that once you have the new technology, you have to have it very well standardized. You have to have very good regulatory framework. You have to have actually laws. And this is exactly what we are doing in ITU. And that is, I believe, a really, really important part of today and yesterday's discussion, because we are talking very much about innovations and things like that. But we are more conservative guys who's saying, okay, this is all very good, new technologies, very interesting things, but we have a question on safety, security, and things like that.
Now, there are many sectors that are touched by this subject, and one of them is IoT, and we've heard a lot of predictions about IoT in the last few years. Everything from sensors monitoring agriculture, sensors monitoring smart cities, inside smart cities, sensors everywhere, sensors on doors. It's crazy. It sounds crazy, but it is something that people are looking to create. And Brian, perhaps you can explain to me, being a simple journalist, is how this subject relates to IoT.
Sure. So, as I said at the beginning, my definition, which is, it's been very interesting to be backstage with these guys and talk about what they were talking about, which is reliable and trust and all this other, which in the Silicon Valley, when you think about a cloud service provider, they've architected around the lack of reliability with software. So they use it as what we call LRUs, a line replaceable unit, where if a hardware component fails, the software is written such that it reroutes the application workloads to another part of the platform. And why I described this as another tool in the toolbox for an IT practitioner is not all workloads require bare metal. Bare metal, to me, is very specific to something that is high performance, low latency. So if you think about gaming, that's a great example where gamers often go to these cloud providers like a Vultr and say, I want a bare metal provision to me so I can run my game at the highest
They want direct
speed.
access to the
And
hardware.
they want direct access, they want no latency. Anybody who's played online gaming, lag sucks. And this is a combatant to lag. In IoT, to me, where bare metal touches IoT and where it's really going to come in the future is when you think about bare metal being as small as a form factor as Raspberry Pi. It could be something as small on the IoT sensor itself, or it could be out at what's called the edge. The edge is, when I was at Equinix, we built edge data centers to aggregate traffic, whether it was for Amazon or Google or Microsoft or any big provider like that. We would aggregate even edge CDNs to make performance better for end users. IoT multiplies that 1,000-fold, because now the edge is a car or an autonomous vehicle or a mailbox-like device that, you know, when you're in Mountain View, California, you're driving around, you're getting Google Wi-Fi for free on every lamppost. Well, if you now move that to video, you need high-performant compute at the edge. And it's got to be provisioned like a cloud. It can't be provisioned the old way. So it's got to be automated provisioning, and it's got to be very, very low latency, fast, and secure. So that, to me, is where they touch.
Yeah. And so, in order for that to happen, we're going to have to put systems onto chips, systems onto hardware. And you know, you at Instigate Design, you're actually looking at lots of this in detail, aren't you? Tell us a little bit more about what is it like to program directly onto these chips? I mean, what are we talking about here?
We refer to it as non-von Neumann or post-von Neumann computing. And the idea is that computing, since its invention more or less, has been based on the premise that a CPU fetches a piece of data and then, fetches a command from the memory and then fetches a piece of data, executes it, puts the data back, and it does that very, very quickly. That is based on the idea that the central processing unit even exists. It doesn't exist anymore, at least since about 20 years, because Moore's law, as was shown, has ended about 20 years ago, at least in the sense of speed. So all these transistors that Jeroen said are 20 billion now, they cannot be used for a single CPU. It would be pointless. You have to use them for many CPUs. So there is no more one CPU. Many CPUs are working in parallel, and that parallelism is hard to deal with for regular programming, which follows the von Neumann paradigm. Even harder, GPUs, which contain even more of those, and FPGA, which contain a lot of other things besides CPU-type operations, and let's say even an ASIC, represented, for example, by Synopsys design tools. That's all non-von Neumann type computing, and it requires more of hardware thinking and more of the thinking of what is happening in parallel. And millions of things are happening in parallel in these kinds of systems.
That's a very good point. Jeroen, you had a
Yes,
point?
great question and nice answers. IoT is not homogeneous. The Internet of Things have many edges. Some of them are very small sensors, as you described, but some of which are mid-sized, larger-sized chips. We can even do AI inside the IoT edge, because you need to process that data before sending it to the cloud. So AI is not only in the cloud, it's also at the edge. So you need to do the sensor, the processing, the AI, then storing it somehow, so you need memories in those chips, and then you will be sending it, so therefore you need communication. Depends on what level of communication, from Bluetooth all the way to 5G if necessary. Now, with these IoTs, we have a big risk. As the Internet of Things is giving us an input in every corner, security is crucial. Security is not only in the computers. Security should be in every single edge, in every single node that we're opening up. Therefore, we need the extra intelligence for security in those. Otherwise, we will not be able to protect the system.
Cecilia, I want to ask you, because you made a very good point about how so many people from the IEEE are coming together to look at some of these systems in December in Bologna. I wish I could go, because I love Bologna. Now, what I'd like to know from you is, ultimately though, who controls it? Because it's all very well, I mean, I shall be the skeptic on the panel, it's all very well that we have fantastic, talented scientists, tech scientists, and computer experts to come together to talk about these standards that we want to develop in the future. But if Apple is releasing a new phone and controls the chip design, if Google controls the designs of its phones, if Microsoft controls the voice operating system, who ultimately is control of, who pulls the levers on the decisions made?
That's a very good point. So what happens, seems to happen, is that at least several companies ask to us to try to initiate, let's say, an IEEE level standardization activity, because IEEE is above parties, is no profit, is well respected in the field, and so the idea is that we have several standards in automotive, now a more recent one for industry, and the idea is that there are, first of all, some gaps among them that needs to be filled, and also so filling the gap and also giving, let's say, performing a standardization activity at the IEEE level. Again, since we are super parties, may hopefully create some efforts that then all the companies will follow. And as I said, that these requests came from the industries in the field. So it's not our idea, it is a response to their request. And there is also a lot of activity on the ethical issues. I mentioned there is a global initiative on ethics for intelligent systems at the IEEE level. And actually our community has been also created as a response to their request to, it was literally to work with them.
So you are in
basically.
constant contact with these huge companies?
Yes.
Right.
We will organize this in-person meeting in Bologna, and of course this is a working meeting, so we would like to start working and define documents to then develop new standards too. But everyone is welcome to come if they have technical interest, and you also are very welcome to
come.
And
you mentioned the standards, and obviously the ITU is all about standards, and of course in the future these, especially in particular in telecommunications, in 5G systems, which are really science fiction in terms of the capabilities of some of these new platforms, this new telecommunications network of 5G. I mean, what's the ITU's stance on this discussion at the moment in terms of edge computing, for instance?
Thank you for the question. ITU is very much involved in this. Simple example, frequencies. For 5G, we need frequencies. These frequencies, they will be provided by World Radio Conference this year in November. It will happen in November in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. It's just an example. But also, as my colleagues mentioned, Internet of Things and some other aspects, I would like to draw your attention to cybersecurity issues. We are living in times when, I don't know, this device knows about me more than my wife does. Actually, my wife doesn't like this joke somehow.
Are you sure you want to say that in public?
Actually, it knows more about me than I myself know, because it tracks me like every second, right? I don't remember what happened 1 year ago, but it does remember. This is extremely important, and this is extremely, I would not say unsafe, but there are many security issues around this one. Or another simple example, unmanned vehicles. You know that technologically, unmanned vehicles, it's not a big issue at all. We can switch all vehicles to unmanned now. But, of course, if we are talking about security, if we are talking about regulatory, there are many, many, many issues around this one. So that is what is my point. The technology develops very, very fast. So we have to catch up with our responsibility, with our regulatory framework, and with security issues. That's extremely important point.
I would like to jump in on your last question briefly. You asked who controls these devices. I would like to ask who should control these devices, and my answer would be it should be the people.
Oh, well. We've got a revolutionary on the panel, everybody.
No. I would like to jump onto this. I think the challenge, I think the IEEE is very respected, and the ITU is as the governing kind of standards makers. I think the challenge is my guess would be that you're being asked by companies not named Google, Apple, Microsoft, etc. You're being asked by the others who are trying to keep pace. Because when you look at the level of investment, I mean, I live right next to the Google campus in Mountain View, and I'm sandwiched between them, Facebook, and Apple. And it's crazy, the level of investment. I don't see how you can possibly keep pace. So to me, I'm sort of where you are, which is how do you put the controls into the people whose data it is, you know, set some sort of framework, but I don't know how the standards bodies can keep up. I just haven't seen it.
Are you saying that because you think that because the opportunity, if for instance in Google, if they come up with a radical new design that can really change things, but of course Google's DNA is embedded into that system, then they're going to like accelerate much faster. And of course, the impetus, of course, we've built companies to speak first to shareholders, right? So the system of the economic system, let alone the tech system, the economic system is designed to create these vast monopolies.
Right, and I sit on the board of a company called Lumentum, and what Lumentum builds are optical components for networking. They also build optical components for like the dot illuminators on the smartphones and all that. And in working, seeing these companies work, how the speed at which they work, how they take raw components and actually build bare metal and pack those into high density racks that are 60 to 100 kVA per rack, driving these things. I see the pace, and I think it's, you're organizing a meeting. I think that's really important. I worry that you're not going to be able to keep pace, and so it ends up having to be somehow self-policing, or the power gets put in the hands of the people and of the devices themselves.
I wonder. Cecilia, go ahead.
Yes, just as a comment. Yes, it's a big challenge. It's tough, but as you know, for instance, if you think autonomous cars, you need now to comply the ISO 26262 for functional safety, and you cannot integrate parts that do not comply these standards. So this is the role of standardization. Once it becomes an internationally accepted standards, you really need, with your hardware, to satisfy let's say the constraints basically of the standards. So standards are needed from that point of view, and once they are defined and internationally accepted, everyone is following. There is no way because
Cars
there is a lot of
phones.
integration that you need to perform. And so to employ your system, you need to guarantee some risk. That your risk is lower than a given level, otherwise you cannot move.
Probably the requirement for some level of standardization, because these things are going to have to work together. We can't just live in a fully global Google world or a fully Microsoft world or a fully Facebook world. But do you want to unpack and explain a little bit more what you mean, because, I mean, it sounds to me like what you're saying is that ultimately would it be ideal if we could design these new systems that will deliver autonomous cars and deliver smart cities at scale in the future. That what you're saying to me is that they, in a way, you're almost talking about like building a whole new internet of things or of design on chips and on hardware, so that they can talk to each other, so that they're not ruled by one particular company. Is that what you're saying? What are you saying?
Yes, that's absolutely possible. It's called peer-to-peer, and decentralization, which is essentially the idea of this entire Congress, and it's technically absolutely possible. We just have to make it work. And of course, by the way, it's interesting to be called a revolutionary for asking that the people should control their own devices. It's an interesting, I'm not...
I quite like having my brain wired to tyrannical governments. It's wonderful. I don't have to make any more decisions.
This is a
I'm a revolutionary. If I basically want to drive my own car into the direction that I want to, it's an interesting concept.
No, but we'll drive the car for you. Don't worry, Brian.
Well, just his comment about peer-to-peer is a really good one. There's a company, small company, named EdgeMesh. EdgeMesh is a very tiny company started in Silicon Valley by a guy that was a fintech guy. And he wanted to build a peer-to-peer CDN based on very small footprint compute, globally distributed. And this is rapidly becoming like an Akamai at a peer-to-peer level. And it's exactly, to me, you're right on the mark.
Yeah, that helps a lot, actually. But coming back to the standards, standards are very good for interoperability. However, we're seeing that the industry is going back to vertically integrated companies. As we used to have back with IBM, AT&T, they would do everything. Today, Facebook, Amazon, Google are doing their own chips. Microsoft, they're building their chips, they're building their systems, they're building their software, so they're giving you vertically integrated system. Their standards are controlled by them. The standard is an internal standard to optimize the total content. What Apple has done for many years, doing the total system, now we're seeing it being repeated by these large companies as well. So each one of them is becoming a chip design company at the same time that they're giving you the total application and running it for you. So the role of standards is changing in a world of these vertically integrated new companies.
Exactly, and I think actually it's quite interesting to see Facebook is investing so heavily in AR and VR because it views those platforms as being the next interface for computing. So instead of just pulling your phone out and looking at it all the time, that it's in front of you all of the time in your glasses or even ultimately on contact lenses or something similar to that. Because if you own the interface, you kind of own the person to some extent. I mean, how optimistic are you, about being able to create this sort of more of a peer-to-peer way of building these very powerful systems which are going to be at the edge of computing?
I'm very optimistic there. It is possible, and I think it's going that direction. And I would like to comment on the standards. I totally believe in standards. To me, they're basically the democratic version of the more anarchistic open source. So you can do open source, which equals anarchy, and you can do standards, which is more of a centrally controlled democracy, but they're both fine if we can trust them. That's
so
really
it does
the key.
come down to trust. I see you're raising your hand there, Mr. Standards.
Yeah, just to add a little bit about why we need international standards. You know, all these big guys that we have now in the picture, they all play very significant role in IEEE, in ITU. I mean, Facebook, Huawei, Google, they are all there. Moreover, investors, they give you money when they see that there is an international standard. It works very simple, by the way. It's a hint for you guys, for Armenian companies. For example, you created some very good product. Don't sit just with your product. Go to international organizations. Do your standard. Lobby for your standard. And then you sell internationally. And then you acquire investments, international investments. It works like that. And this is something that I really would like to deliver this message, because for people sitting in the room, if you have good ideas, if you have innovations, go for international standards. This is only way to create a really big product and really big company. That is how it works.
Well, I'm going to be controversial and say, what about innovation? Because if we always sit on if we always apply to standards which are much more slower moving than innovation, and Brian, you mentioned, I've just been in San Francisco myself, and you can drive down the roads and past Google and past Facebook and past Apple, and they don't care, frankly, so long as they win. As simple as that. And they want to basically drive innovation as fast as possible. They're all in a race to develop the next quantum computer. Google just posted by accident a paper on NASA's website saying that it had done an experiment in quantum computing and had managed to perform an experiment where they could run a program which normally would take a normal computer 10,000 years, and they did it in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And that paper was released on, we reported this on TechCrunch. That paper came out on NASA's website and within 4 hours it had disappeared. So who knows what's going on out there? And they all do want to win. What are you going to say, Brian?
This, to me, I hope this is interesting to you, because it's interesting to me to hear the various perspectives. I think you hit it on the head, where there's a lot of vertical integration going. Innovation is happening not only in the big guys, but also in my mind, and this is where this democratization of compute is really important. Because if you're in Armenia and you're a hungry entrepreneur, getting access to compute so that you can actually build product or write software or do things is critically important. So I think edge computing is critical to driving innovation. Giving tools to everybody wherever they are in the world is really important. And it's not just the big guys that are going to do the innovation. I do think, though, that with this vertical integration, I think where standards comes most important is in interoperability, like you said. Because the standards are going to be different for autonomous vehicles, where they must be much more stringent at a higher level than perhaps a mobile phone. And I think the pace of innovation is different. So I think to spur innovation, we have to unshackle them from having to go get standards and instead drive adoption and give people opportunity. To me, that's more important first before you drive to standards. I think standards is then the second thing as you're getting this adoption and putting this opportunity out there. And that's where I think bare metal is a big, giving people access is critical.
I think there's, to speak to that, I think there was a real revolution a couple of years ago when the Raspberry Pi came out, and suddenly it was an incredibly cheap, simple, but quite sophisticated computer, effectively, about the size of a credit card, and that did give people access to computing. You saw people using Raspberry Pis in refugee camps and things like that, and they got access to compute, shall we say, or computing power that they would not normally have access to. And that's the problem, I suppose, is if we do rely on the cloud forever and just think that the cloud's going to fix everything forever, that we are therefore, become slavish to that. And you're right, it's not about decentralization at all.
Yeah. The cloud is currently a misnomer. It's the wrong word for what actually exists, because it's not a cloud. It's Google's and Amazon's servers. It's just called a cloud. What would be a real cloud if you took millions
I suppose there is also Azure, say, for instance, but...
Sorry?
There is also Azure and other systems, but
okay,
yeah, sure.
Okay, should name all brand names.
Other brands are available, as they say on the BBC.
A real cloud would be if you took these millions of Raspberry Pis and you networked them in a peer-to-peer network, and then one Raspberry Pi user would have access to the combined compute power of all of the Raspberry Pis, which probably already exceeds Google's compute power.
That would be quite cool. Hold on, guys. I think we've just entered an episode of Silicon Valley, the comedy, where they talked about creating a new internet with Bluetooth. Do you remember that episode? That was brilliant.
We need more refrigerators.
We need more. We need a Bluetooth peer-to-peer network. Yeah, about.
I want to add about standards. That standards gives us also democratization, not only in terms of usage, but in terms of development as well. Take USB. USB is an IEEE standard. Thanks to IEEE for creating it. USB is so practical for everybody to use. That makes it not only as users use it everywhere, but also as developers. We can democratize it and develop it. We happen to have, my company Synopsys, large portion of that market, the USB IP block, about 70%. I'm proud to say that Synopsys in Armenia here is the one that develops that IP block and makes it available worldwide to make it usable.
That's something I didn't know. Amazing. Very
That's
cool.
Decentralization again. You can decentralize it, develop it somewhere nice in Armenia, and use it all over the world.
There you go. Well, we're sort of we've got about 10, 15 minutes left, but I mean, we might, I'm not sure whether or not we've got any questions, or we don't really have a lot of microphones in the audience, but we might be able to get some in if there are any. But maybe what we could do is, yeah, let's do a quick question. Okay, let me just set the ground rules here, guys. If you want to ask a question, you have to say your name and your company, and then ask a question, which is a real question, not a statement. Go for it. We're democratizing the session. Sure. Go for it.
Hey guys, my name is Pedro. I'm from CoinRivet. It's a news media based in the UK. And my
Hold it closer.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So my question is actually I think very simple. You guys were talking about standards and peer-to-peer. Sorry. So I would like to hear your opinion and your thoughts on, well, to me, the best peer-to-peer technology called Bitcoin. And I would like to hear your thoughts, because it has been here for 10 years. And, it's machines, enabling people to transfer money, globally without a central authority. How do you think, is that a standard to you guys? That's my question.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks.
Hold on to the microphone, because I might turn you into my person who
Sure.
can carry the microphone around. Wait 1 second. So let's talk about that. So we've got this new, technology of blockchain was invented. Satoshi Nakamoto comes up with blockchain and with Bitcoin. So that's decentralization. I mean, that is running very hot on decentralization, but in terms of cryptocurrency. But it's using a lot of computing power, isn't it? It's actually not very environmental, is it? At this point in time. How do we, what does that do for, how can we put blockchain into some of these systems that we're talking about in the future?
It's very hard to understand the question here, actually, because we only hear the echo. But I think the question was about how to standardize peer-to-peer, right? Did I get this right?
No,
it was.
I heard what he said. What he said was, he said there's an example of peer-to-peer, Bitcoin, and he was asking what our thoughts were on, I think, that as well as blockchain. And let me make one quick comment. Bitcoin aside, which to me is a specific implementation of blockchain technology. Blockchain technology to me has phenomenal uses in the future. I think it is perfectly suited for distributed, when I was at Equinix, we were building blockchain vaults, compute pods in data centers around the world to actually encourage and entice blockchain companies to come to do shared ledger work across firms. And so one of the uses that we're starting to see right before I left was shared ledgers across supply chain. So you could imagine having a digital supply chain that's governed by a trusted blockchain-based ledger. And that's just one example. So to me, that's a perfect example of distributed computing needing heavy compute that's best served in a distributed manner.
Yes, to maybe follow up on the question, if I also understood correctly, because there is actually some echo. Also at the IEEE level, there is an initiative, it's called On Blockchains. So they are addressing, we are also as computer society involved, also challenges. Let's say this, of course, is a technology, as the colleague was saying, that is considered important for the upcoming years.
Go ahead.
I think it's coming back to trust. When we talk about peer-to-peer, then basically because we believe in the kind of trust to a peer and less trust to somebody that we don't know at all. So there can be a version of IoT where we have, let's say, the IoT edge devices, which are our own, and somehow we can make the hardware so that we can trust these. But there can also be data centers that can be trusted. It's not saying that data centers can in principle not be trusted. If there was, let's say, standards, or if there was some kind of other way of making sure that there's an oversight that is democratic and that can be trusted, there's nothing wrong with data centers, and we could have some central compute power at a large scale, which eventually, potentially can be a little more energy efficient, for example, and more powerful than a pure edge peer-to-peer with naturally a higher latency and so on.
Yes, and it does depend on how you power these systems. Did you have a comment, Kirill? Sorry.
I think I have a very practical answer. We in ITU we have a study group. It's called Digital Finance. They're studying blockchain technologies. They studied fiat currencies, digital currencies, and all these questions. So, in fact, there is a group who is doing the standards right now on this particular matter. And just let me stress one thing. It's not, a secret group of people writing the standards. Not at all. It's you who is doing this. You are coming to ITU in any format, as a national delegation, or there is a format of sector membership, for example. You come and you do your standard. That's very bottom-up approach, let's say.
Yeah.
So
the standards are written by you.
This is a practical thing.
We have a question just right here, and then we'll go over to there, and we've got even more over here. Go for it.
Hey, Anna talked about trusted devices, and my question is related to that. So in case of software, we can make sure that the software, compiled software binaries correspond to the source. Simply speaking, we compile the source, we get, with the same compiler, we get the same binary, exactly the same binary, which can be proven via cryptographic functions and hashes, etc. Are there ways to do the same with hardware, that hardware real device corresponds to source?
Yes, we have. In fact, security starts from the hardware. It has to have the base in the hardware. We call it the root of trust. The root of trust will be a processor sitting in your chip with the only mission of keeping the security. So it will understand the keys, it will understand who you are, if you can access that code, and if yes, then the next level, the following level, up to the software, up to the application. So trust or security, cybersecurity, starts from the base, the root of trust, and goes up. For that, you need an engine. You need a nice engine inside your chip to maintain that, and the rest follows.
Do you have an answer? No, or is it Brian?
Yeah, I agree. Basically, there's such a thing as the root of trust, and it is obviously in the hardware because that's the part that does the work, and the root of trust has to be in the hardware. And so there should be, say, IoT, edge, whatever devices, Raspberry Pi sort of things, which the hardware design follows either strict standards and there's an oversight either by a, let's say, open source community of hardware experts who looks at the hardware design and says, yes, there's no Trojans in here, or basically, no, we cannot make sure because there's a black box in here and we don't know what it does and it's directly connected to the internet. That's really the key to the trust thing. And as I think it can be implemented either with standards and then you need some oversight, or with open source.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, there's a white paper I can point you to where Intel is actually working specifically on what you're talking about with confident computing, and there's a secure enclave that you can actually write your keys to, and it's almost like a hardware hash. So I can point you to that white paper when we're done. Okay.
We're getting deep into it, ladies and gentlemen. This is amazing. Okay, next.
Hi, great discussion. Thanks. My name is Aram Markosian, and I represent Xilinx. It's spelled Xilinx. And our CTO was supposed to be on this panel, but unfortunately he left this morning. So I want to basically use this lever and come
sure,
back
do you want to ask your question?
Come back to and make a comment about the first question you asked, what the bare metal is, right? The bare metal, just to take an analogy, if you go to a restaurant, the customers who come and order dishes, these are all the users, this billion users, they use cell phones and other applications, right? The cooks are the software guys who create this system, Googles and Facebooks and everything. But we are the guys, basically Xilinx is partnering with Synopsys, Instigate, IEEE. So we are the guys who are making the knives in the kitchen of these restaurants. So that's what the bare metal compared with. And we've been talking, the entire theme of this Congress was decentralization, and that we can do a lot of things in different centers. But if we look down, everything, as Enno said, it's not a cloud. In fact, it's real bare metal. So the servers are working, and someone makes the chips that enables these servers to work. And the question is this. If you exclude Intel and Samsung, there are 2 or 3 factories in the world that make chips. There's no anyone else.
Worried about
my question is, do you see any danger in having just a few factories that can produce these small chips of 7 nanometers and smaller?
Good point. Thank you very much. Great question. So, so it's not decentralization because only a handful of companies can produce the metal. Anyone?
I'll take it. You want to? Go ahead. Okay. So, yes, there are less and less companies manufacturing chips. 10 years ago, we had 40 companies doing chips. Today, we do have only 2 companies doing 7 nanometer. Others are staying behind. 4 will catch up perhaps eventually. Now, yes, there are few companies doing it. However, you need to build the trust. And that trust is not only in manufacturing. That trust comes from the building blocks. You need to get your IP blocks from companies that you trust. You need to get your design tools from companies that you trust, not from anywhere else. And then build it up at every level. Trust is a necessary component. So security, cybersecurity, and the trust that you build to your system has to come from the smallest level, from your IPs, all the way to the software.
Did you have a question?
This is going to be very technical, but I know at least you are also very technical. So we might need something like a GDS to layout, reverse engineering tool in order to make sure that what's on the chip is in fact what's been designed, and that not later on by some manufacturing company a hardware Trojan was still built in. And we might even need a consortium or so that etches open devices and checks whether the real device in fact matches the GDS, which is all technically easily possible. It's all done today. It's done in the industry. Synopsys has it, and we might need an open source version of this so that people can actually check their chips.
Well, that sounds like it will work. It could work. I only have a couple of minutes. I think we're out of questions now, but we only have a couple of minutes left. And I just wanted to pull from the finally from this panel. Let's sort of come back again to this big question of how this future is going to arrive with autonomous cars, with IoT, with incredibly powerful systems at the edge of the network, helping us in our daily lives, making sure the crops arrive and everything. Let's fast forward 20 years, 10 years, maybe even further, 10 years, maybe even further, 20 years. What do you think, how do you think this situation about edge computing, or whatever you want to call it, will play out? And let's start with you, Yervat, and we'll come back this way.
Sure. I think it all depends on us, on innovation, our imagination, whatever we want it to be. The cars today are supercomputers. My car transmits 4 terabytes of data every day to the cloud. It has 100 million lines of code on it. It's a supercomputer on the wheel. Somebody invents that. We need the next application, the next application. So it's up to us to invent the applications, while the bare metal, the chips, the backbone of the industry, has to keep giving you the best speed, the best dimensions, the condensation necessary. So on one hand, we need to give the backbone, we need to give the bare metal to the best level, and our imagination will create the most applicable thing to come with.
Yeah.
Just to echo what Yervan said, and to the question, we really have to be innovative. If you heard about, for example, quantum computing, maybe in 2 years from now, maybe no one will care about chips at all. For example, not in 2 years, of course, in 10 years. But quantum computing is developing very fast. And by the way, this is one of the topics that is under study in ITU as well. So for example, for quantum computing, there is a very funny problem when if you do the calculation by quantum computer, to check this calculation, you have to spend months with a normal computer. So that is kind of, it may happen that it will be really a technology jump very soon. It's ongoing now, actually. So what I mean, we have to be innovative, but we have to be collaborative as well, decentralized. It's absolutely okay. We in ITU, we also support any kind of national activities, small companies, small and medium enterprises. We support this. And we are against monopoly, really. We don't think it's good, the monopoly. So let us be innovative, let us be collaborative, and let's move on.
You know, who was going to win in 20 years' time? Will it be us?
I don't know. And I'm scared.
Well, thanks very much, everyone.
and I just hope that we will be able to decentralize, democratize this, and then the democratized version will be used correctly, let's say, or in a good way, because we've lately even seen democracies failing. So democracy might not be the answer to all of it, but I'm hoping that at least we can, from the technical base, offer something that should, at least from the technical point of view, work.
Right. Well, that's a very, very stark vision. Cecilia,
Okay,
what do you think? What's your answer to this question?
So I think we have lots of opportunities ahead of us. So technology is extremely advanced, and as my colleagues were saying, I think we need to be creative and to think how we can exploit it and make it work for the benefit of all of us, of the humanity. I think we have lots of opportunity, but of course we need to collaborate, to be very cautious, and hopefully I think it's the theme also of this wonderful conference. Each one of us can be the center, our innovation, our creativity, and then of course we need to collaborate to make it work for the benefit of all of us. We have great opportunities. I'm sure we will make it work.
Brian.
So I'm not like, I'm not thinking Skynet is out there in the future. I guess I feel more that we need to take the fact that costs of compute is going down, that the form factor size of compute, bare metal, is reducing, that somehow we need to get this in the hands of everybody. So that's where I think this democratization and decentralization is critical, because innovation, I think, is the key to solving some of these biggest problems, whether they're autonomous vehicles or it's, like you said, crops, or it's chain of custody using blockchain across pharmaceuticals, or whatever the application is. The way you're going to solve it is to give compute capability into the hands of the masses and let them solve it. And then I think we do come together and collaborate on how do we do standards around identity management, how do we do standards around at confident computing, and then there's a whole new realm with quantum computing, which I think is in the next 10 to 20 years. But to me, first and fundamental, to drive innovation, to solve problems, we have to democratize the capability as soon as possible.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, to borrow a phrase, let 1,000 flowers bloom, and you're all flowers. So go forth, decentralize and bloom. Please thank our panel. And my name is Mike Butcher from TechCrunch. I hope you had a good time. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to do a session now, called Business Interrupted. There was a film a few years ago called Girl Interrupted, which is kind of ironic because we've got a panel of all men. We have to begin the panel by really apologizing for all men, and to all women in the audience, I apologize. So if during the course of the conversation it presents itself that there must be a woman in the audience who probably could kick these guys' asses, then we will get you up on the panel, okay? So let's do that. But we will have a discussion and then we'll do some Q&A. Let me introduce what was going on now. So for those of you who don't already know, my name is Mike Butcher. I'm the editor-at-large for TechCrunch. We have 15 million readers, and we're based in San Francisco. Thank you very much. Very kind. We have, not to denigrate our panel, because we do have some fantastic experts here. And the way we wanted to sort of set this up was that there's the threats and the opportunities that business faces today, and they keep doing this, so now I can't see it. There you are. Right. The threats and opportunities that business faces today are myriad, and of course, today we're all walking around with very sophisticated devices which are, you know, more powerful than the computer that put mankind on the moon. And so the consumers are moving quickly, and the technology is moving quickly, but the question is can businesses move quickly as well to mitigate the vulnerabilities and to also transform themselves to meet the challenges of the future. So, without further ado, I'm going to allow the panel to introduce themselves, talk about what they're working on, how they might speak to that big high-end subject about this really fast-moving, this consumer activity, the business activity that has to take place now because technology moves so quickly, the vulnerabilities and the transformation. So let's hear from everybody and then we'll kick off the panel. So everybody has a couple of minutes each to just talk a little bit more. So over to you, sir.
All right. Here's a mic. Hello, everyone. My name is Mikhail Romanov. I am joining you from Moscow here. I'm at the head of advisory for Ernst & Young, EY. Now, as you know, we're an audit and also a consultancy firm. So I look after the consultancy bit. Now, a lot of the work that we do these days is about transformation, transforming the companies. We live in a transformative age, as you very well know, and the companies do need to transform, sometimes in order to prosper, sometimes in order to survive. And a lot of the transformation is technology enabled. What we're finding more and more, and I'm saying more and more probably within the last 2-3 years, and it's coming onto the CIS, sorry, I failed to mention, I look after advisory in the CIS. That's what we call this region. Armenia is naturally a big part of our region. You know, we do have a presence here in Yerevan, so I'm a frequent guest in Armenia, not just because I like the food, I also like the people, and sometimes I also come here for business. Thank you. So back to our topic. So a lot of the transformation that we do is helping companies through technology enablement transform themselves. Those are large transformative projects. In the past 2-3 years, we're finding more and more is that without a very good understanding of where we're going with security, we cannot protect the systems of our clients. The systems, as they're developing, are also becoming more intricate, more interconnected, but consequently more vulnerable. So a lot of our clients are actually looking at how to protect their system through an overall, you call it a cyber strategy, to take account of everything that is happening within the organization and how they're open to the outside world. So within the next 40, 45 minutes that we have left, I'd be happy to talk about some of the interesting cases, including some of the public ones that you might know about, of breaches and vulnerability as a part of the transformative process, and what we believe needs to be done to deal with that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Next up, we will have Mikhail Vadianan from Pixart, who I gather is a company here, right? Okay, cool.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, probably some of you should know that company. It's a small company. We had our CEO talking today, really good presentation with Kim. It was really amazing. So I'm CPO at Pixart. We are the largest creative platform with more than 130 million monthly active users. We are more than 400 people already around the world with 5 offices. And yeah, we keep growing. And as it was mentioned, at every stage of our growth, we have transforming, and we continue transforming as we're expanding. So it's really important for us to keep it up, and we can discuss what problems, what issues we have during all our stage of growth since 2011, since we launched first time. Thank you. That's it for now. Let's continue. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Next up, we've got Mike Eisel with CTO with TeamViewer. What's TeamViewer?
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. My name is Mike Eisele. I'm the CTO of TeamViewer. I'm with the company since quite some time, 10 years. And talking about transformation and business transformation, I started with the company when there were 38 people in the entire company. And some of you might know we just recently IPO'd, so we really had some transformation going on to that year. Thanks. Yeah, TeamViewer is a connectivity platform, a leading connectivity platform. We really take care about connecting devices and make devices accessible over internet, over connectivity. We not just take only care about remoting into PCs or mobile devices, it's really also about machinery, remote operation of machinery, etc. We serve up to 45 million concurrently connected devices on our platform. It's a global platform. We have more than 80 plus locations globally, worldwide distributed, which is actually more than Amazon or AWS has today. So we really want to empower other companies, other businesses, small business, but also enterprises, to enable them in their digital transformation, make them a connected company. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, we have a very shy and retiring entrepreneur. You'll really have to guess what he's doing. His name is Artak Tovmasyan, who's chairman of the board of directors of All.me. And I'm wondering, why did you not come in branded clothing? It's a joke. Carry on.
Hello to everybody. I'm Artak Tovmasyan. We create the platform, which name is All.me. All.me. I think this is the first digital platform, the first ecosystem, which is included inside of him social network, marketplace, and payment systems. I think we are the first, and we are thinking to change the world, to do revolutionary, and we are the first who are ready to share our advertising income, 50% of advertising income with our residents, no subscribers, residents. And welcome to a new era, to a new world, the world of All.me. Thank you.
We'll be hearing a little bit more about All.me. Next up.
Hi, my name is Ara Ohanian. First, I have to say it's really difficult for 4 guys in half a suit to go after Kim Kardashian. That's not a fair spot to be working in, so please help us. Second thing, I'd like to nominate myself as the ambassador of all the women who are not represented on this particular, and I'll do my best for you. And thirdly, we're in the business, I run a company called Systec. It's a company for 30 years, has been protecting children, families, grandmas, grandpas with the medicines that they take. The world has currently there's more than $220 billion a year of fake medicine. More than 1 million people a year die from consuming fake medicine. And when you take all of the other areas, other shampoos and drinks and so on, that number is 1.7 trillion. $1.7 trillion of fake products that are hurting people. So we're in the business of creating digital solutions that help you fight counterfeiters and keep consumers safe. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you. And next up we have Armin from Genpact.
Good, thank you. Yes, my name is Armin Kurlopian, and with my fellow panelists and everyone in this building, it is my absolute pleasure to be here. If we consider every one of us as members of a team, so my company, Genpact, we have 100,000 folks, and we work in the area of digital transformation. So if we consider everyone in the audience, everyone in the building is about 10,000, multiply that by 10. And the challenge is, how do you mobilize such a large group of people to work on items such as drug safety, improving the stability of financial systems, the resiliency of supply chain. So with my colleagues here, delighted to talk about this transformation. And as from Silicon Valley to Silicon Alley in New York, and here to Silicon Mountain in Armenia.
And finally, we have Galip from Coca-Cola.
Yes. Well, good afternoon, and absolutely, after Kim, it's really difficult to start even the discussion, and it's quite hot sitting here in this chair, so, but it's a great pleasure.
Hold it closer.
We produce beverages, as you all know, and I work for one of the biggest bottlers, Coca-Cola Hellenic Bottling Company, and I'm the Group Innovation, Strategy, and Commercial Solutions Director, operating in 28 countries. And we've been here almost 25 years in Armenia, and we love to operate here. It's a fantastic 2 days for us to be here, part of this, this Congress, and to really meet the talented people of Armenia that we've been closely working together, but really see that power here. So, pleasure to be here.
Awesome, thank you. So, to sort of set this up a little bit, we've got two startups on the panel. Now, Olmi and Pixar. Now, you guys do not have the same problems as a big old corporate at the moment, because you're fast moving, you're a tech company, you're already on Slack or whatever it is you use. But Mikhail from Pixar, when you're trying to make your company move fast, do you find that, now, because you're now quite a big company now, aren't you? So you have actually similar problems, perhaps, to some of the established businesses out there. When you're trying to change a process or something, how do you go about it? A lot of the time people say it's about culture.
Yeah, so thanks, Mike. We placed culture really as a key factor during our growth, during the entire life of the company, and especially during the last couple of years when we were growing pretty fast. So it helped us to scale the company where we are now, and we still continue improving and build on top of it. Because if you don't have the right culture, if you don't have the right team, it's really hard to scale from like 10 people startup to 500 people company. And at each stage we encountered many issues, but because we have emphasized and we worked hard on the culture part, we always overcome that problems and continue moving forward. So like recently, during the last 3-4 months, we grown like by 20-25%. Our team have grown it, and also all the KPIs are growing for us, so it's really hard to keep the KPIs growing and scale the team, but we managed to do it. We continue doing that, and that's all because of the culture, I think.
Thank you. And that happens a lot in tech startups, but Genpact, obviously, you're obviously consulting some of the biggest companies. Which comes first when a company wants to transform itself in the digital realm? Is it culture or is it systems?
So in terms of a way to operationalize a change in systems, it comes from a core cultural question, namely, what are the priorities and the norms for communicating? So for a software company, a norm for communicating is actually very system-based. If you have an organization that is more homegrown, it'll be critical for the leaders to cascade meaning. So I would make it a bit of a hybrid that you lead in with culture, and sometimes the systems are the means for communication, which is also part of culture.
But you've got 100,000 people working for you right now. I mean, that also is a challenge inside your own company, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. What we find even across our different business units, and very much so since we're on transformation journeys with our customers that may last 3, 5, 7 years, in our organization will echo parts of the culture of our customers. So what we do is we cascade meaning. We value speed, we value resiliency in systems, and we value teaming. And beyond that, at that scale, you cannot design a process for everything. You have to cascade the meaning. And cascading meaning is essential in the culture.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to ask you, what do you mean by meaning? What is meaning?
Sure. So culture, norms for communicating, and a set of priorities. So a way in which teams should work, should share information. This is the meaning, that the priorities of the customer are first. Their interactions with regulators are to be in a highly engaged manner as opposed to pulled away. And for contrast, you can have industries that'll have different views on that. You know, how close to the regulator do you stand? How much information you share?
Right. And Galeb, Coca-Cola, you're in charge of innovation, aren't you?
Yes.
Right. So you've got the buck stops here, as it were, in terms of how you do innovation in the company. I mean, what comes first for you? Is it the systems or the culture, or what is it? I mean, because when you're trying to roll out new tech, for instance, new tech inside the company, how do you get people on board with what you're doing?
Absolutely, and I believe it's the culture, and it starts with people. We operate in different landscapes, different cultures, different people, and different languages. That always creates different challenges, but it starts with the culture of the people, how to adapt to technology. And one of the challenges that we have is the scalability. How do we scale the solutions that we are always seeing day in, day out, and how do we really work with partners to really make that happen for us? So that is the challenge from a system perspective, but also it's cultural. I think it's all starts with the people.
Well, absolutely, that's a truism. But Ernst & Young, you're always consulting with these big companies like Coca-Cola, aren't you? What do you advise? How do you advise them when they want to, change their systems and reorganize and what have you?
And it is a pleasure to consult these large companies. We coined the term purpose-led transformation. So I actually agree with the two previous speakers in terms of objectives. It is not a worthwhile exercise to transform for the sake of transformation. Each company needs to have a strategy, and within its strategy there needs to be a purpose. However, the company needs to define that purpose. Around the purpose is how we build the culture. I think it's also a derivative of the purpose. So purpose-led transformation is probably the most impactful, but it's also the one that has a very clear objective in mind. That way we know all of our initiatives and our transformation roadmap is geared towards a very specific goal, you know, and that specific goal is the corporate purpose of the corporation.
Now, when companies change themselves, one of the problems is introducing new vulnerabilities. And I know that in the era where you can have people taking fraudulent medicine, which is fraudulent, which is incorrect, or is fake, that is a huge vulnerability, especially for pharmaceutical companies, isn't it? And so you guys are actually trying to fix that, and you have been doing it for a while, correct?
Yeah, you could say that.
You need a microphone.
You could say we tried to fix it. It's criminals are so much smarter and faster and more digital than the corporations that provide products, and that's the problem. We always say that when we use the analogy, if you show up to a gunfight, you won't bring a pocket knife. And this is really what's happening. If you take currently a lot of criminal money is moving from cartels into creation of fake products, counterfeits. Why? If I ask the audience, I wonder, how many more times, do you think, how would you make more money? Selling heroin or selling a fake product?
It depends if it's fake heroin, no?
Well, so here's the thing. So here's the thing. If you sell,
I mean, it's not the same as selling fake Gucci bags, is it?
No, if you sell a fake product, there's no criminality. Whereas if you're selling a drug, there's criminality. So you're seeing a lot of criminal money going into fake products because the profit is 10 to 1. You make 10 times more money counterfeiting a pharmaceutical product or a shampoo.
Could you sell fake Coca-Cola?
Absolutely. In fact, we were working with Coca-Cola in Brazil, and because they take bottles and they refill them with bad material.
Yeah.
So we need to protect people against that.
Is it still fizzy?
It's the fizz comes out. It's not
still
fun.
Fizzy.
Too much sugar.
Yeah, too much sugar.
It's not good for your health.
Yeah.
We have the secret syrup, so it's hard to copy. So.
Huh?
We have the secret syrup, so...
The secret syrup?
Yep.
What's it made of?
A couple of people know in the world. So.
Couple, only two. But you, and if I found out, you'd have to kill me, right?
Yes.
There's a challenge. Now,
you're more popular than you think.
What?
You're more popular than you think.
Yeah, these guys will get in front of the bullets. I'll be fine. Now, I'll try and be serious for a second. You've got the vulnerabilities, you've got the pharma issue. You guys are doing a lot with IoT, correct?
Yes.
And so, yes, you also need a microphone to reply. So, now, what's going on? Because companies are getting very complex now. You've got supply chains that has to be tracked. You have to have, warehouses that have to have CCTV and you name it and everything. So that, again, itself is another vulnerability itself, isn't it? So are people prepared for this future?
Yeah, so our view in the company is really, we started connecting devices and remoting, and then customers came to us and said, look, we use your product, but for a completely different use case. So we learned from our customers that they use our horizontal solution in very different places, and they actually introduced to us different IoT use cases where they used our product to remotely control and operate fish feeding farms. We never thought about fish feeding farms or snow cannons. So they really used the product in different ways and made themselves a step into the digital world and digitalized their company, because they saw our solution as a helping hand to make it easy for them to have a remote connectivity, pre-configured, works already out of the box. And that's, I think, something we need to build for other companies. These building blocks they can just use, reuse, because, as you asked, they are not prepared to build for their own a complex system. Has to be secure, no vulnerabilities, security, etc. So we need to have existing building blocks that are proven, that are working, that are scalable, and they can be used to transform parts of the business, and together with multiple building blocks really then have a new business model to be established.
And of course, at that point also you got against the security issue that you guys consult with these guys on. What are the biggest threats that are happening at the moment in security?
Sure. Well, there are several, and we could talk about them, given the time. But what Mike was saying actually brings me to one of the 5 or 7, security threats that we see today, and it is, singularly, it's the interoperability. It's the connected environment that we operate in. IoT is a very important, dimension of the current business, and in fact, a lot of our solutions in the IT space are, built on the IoT, on machine-to-machine technology. Blockchain is probably, going to be taking over a lot of the different industries, but with it comes the fact that everything is connected to everything. There are different speculations in terms of how many connected devices we'll have by next year, 2020. Some say 20 billion, some say 50 billion. But nevertheless, it's an enormous amount. And think about it, every connected device is an inlet into the whole. Target supermarket chain in the US? That Target supermarket chain was vulnerable, it was hacked. The system was hacked. Do you know it was hacked through? It was hacked through an air conditioning system. Las Vegas casino was hacked, I don't know if you know the story, it was widely publicized, through a fish tank. The casino had a fish tank that knew when to feed the fishes. It had an IT program running that would measure, and on a periodic basis, based on the temperature, would feed the fishes. So it was hacked through the fish tank, because fish tank was interconnected to the other servers and to the other devices within the casino. So if you think about it, that because everything is interconnected, a lot of the work that we're doing right now is actually we're surveying, the inventorying, the systems that any one large customer has, and big companies have a lot of those systems, because each one is a potential window into the outside world and a potential vulnerability.
I love the thought of fish hacking systems, don't you? It's exciting. It gives a whole new meaning to the phrase swimming with the fishes. I'm so glad you said the word target, because that leads me as a nice segue into my next question, because my next discussion, because Allme is going to be you are basically trying to be a retailer, a social media platform, a cryptocurrency, all in the one app, aren't you? So you and Pixar represent a new wave of social media, but also fast-moving tech startups, tech companies who are leading the consumer along a path which all of the big companies like Coca-Cola, etc., pharma companies have to respond to quickly. So what at Allme, do you think about that fact that you're taking on big companies with your crypto platform and your social platform?
Yeah, sure. I think first of it, the platform which we created, it's not only for us. We create it for all people and all the big corporations and the regular companies as well. What's happening till now? Till now, all companies, they are in a center, and around are the peoples. So through peoples, they're becoming multi-billion companies. But people don't getting nothing from this. Starting in social media, starting in other companies, in marketing. So we change the game, I think, and we're putting the person through whom the companies are becoming multi-billion or richest.
So
we
you want
put
to
the person
flipping
in
the model
center.
entirely?
And yeah, we're putting personally any person in a center, and we are creating everything around of him. This is the first time when world is changing and person is in center and everything around of him. And as our panelists taking care about the fake, not only for the goods pharmacy or something, I think blockchain technology will be help to take care of this all the fake items not only fake accounts in social networks, and at the same time fake items on a market. And this is one of the key points that you can change your business as well. So when somebody go to buy something, it should be in a blockchain, you can find out and to be stop it.
New partnership between our companies.
Sure, we're already starting.
We've just seen a deal signed there on the stage, live in front of us. So that's interesting because, yeah, you're trying to actually flip the model. You're trying to empower the consumer, empower an ordinary person to be part of your platform, to own part of your platform, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
The power of the business is the person. So when we are talking with something, we are asking how many followers you have.
Yeah.
So these followers doing amount of cap of the company.
Yeah.
So how many bottle of Coca-Cola you are selling. So this is how many, the quantity. So this quantity needed to be shared with the people.
Imagine if we all owned part of Coca-Cola. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you know, I think we are the next step, and next one it will be, can you imagine that we are coming, buying Coca-Cola and he's sharing the part of his profit with you, that we are drinking Coca-Cola? This is the next thing which can be in the future.
That would be nice, so long as he shares the recipe as well. Now, Mikhail...
We started this, we already sharing. So we are giving example how it can be changed.
I don't care about the money, I just want the recipe. Michael, Pixar, you represent a new wave of companies. You're empowering creatives with your platform. And obviously we saw Kim Kardashian very eloquently explain earlier today how she'd used social media. She was, I mean, really, she is a master of this, isn't she? Absolutely incredible. And so you're doing that, you're giving, and oh, by the way, and do you want to tell us on the stage what deal it is you're doing with Kim Kardashian?
She's just using our application. She told already.
She's already broken
She likes
the
our
story.
application, she uses.
She's already broke. Damn, I'm late.
She told herself, so.
Damn.
No deal.
Late to the story already. But I mean, what does it feel like for you guys? Do you feel? How much does your community inform your future strategy of where the product goes?
Our community, I think, is the main driver of our future strategy, and we're constantly working with our community and getting feedback, talking to our users. So it's part of our daily job in order to define our strategy and continue moving forward with what we are doing. So it really helps, and that helps us, and it's really the strongest point why we're growing for 8-9 years in a row. And regarding vulnerabilities, I think since the first day that we got these smartphones, we are already vulnerable over us, and then it's big data, and then it's AI technology. So with each technology shift, we have more vulnerabilities, and it's growing and growing. That's why these guys will have a lot of work always, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So,
brief.
Thanks for the a lot of work statement. It's very true. I said, you know, there are a lot of vulnerabilities. Social networks is a big thing, and it's a game changer. But it's also quite a vulnerable thing. Another anecdotal, piece of information for you. You might have heard there's a sports social network for athletes that is in existence. Not going to call it by name, but it's been widely publicized. A student in Australia was able to identify American military bases based on...
Oh, this is Strava.
Very good. It's Strava.
I remember, Strava.
Yeah. See, we're playing a little bit of trivia here too. So indeed, an Australian student was able to identify US military bases based on the information received from within that social network. Since then, many other military bases, not just US, Russian, Turkish, Italian in Djibouti was identified just by analyzing that information.
It's really amazing. So these guys were going on jogs, on runs around the Air Force Base. And so and in public, so you could see on the Strava app where the military base was. Amazing. So
exactly.
Cool.
And you know how there was a World War II slogan, loose lips sink ships, right? Probably coined by Brits such as Mike here. I think the slogan of today should be don't wear your Fitbit to work when on active duty, yeah? Because it's pretty much the same. It's a loose lip for anybody who's watching.
Careless Strava cost lives. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to break this up now. I've found a volunteer. See, you. Yeah, come here. Yeah, you, come here. Give him a round of applause, everybody. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, no, come here. No, stop. No, just stand there. Stand there. You are now going to be my volunteer to run around with the microphone. Yes! Okay, all you have to do, and at the end of it, you can pitch us, okay? At the end. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's now Q&A time, okay? So I want to see some questions from the audience to these people about the future, tech, transformation, anything you like. But there's just one thing, it has to be from a woman, okay? So any women would like to ask a question, first off. Go on. Let's get a photograph. Let's get a question. Put your hand up. There's one. What was that? Pointing over there? I can't. Put your hand up, please. There it is, right at the back. Okay. Sir, excuse me. Can you go over there, please? There's a lady. Could you stand up, please? Stand up. Yeah. Thank you. Now, could you say your name and your company, and then just give us your question or whatever? Yeah.
Sure. Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and my company's Riley. It's a health tech platform to connect patients. And my question for you all is, how in the future do you guys suspect addressing accessibility in terms of populations with disabilities and issues with accessing tech? Are you guys addressing that, or how are you guys looking at that issue?
So, can I just ask a question? What do you mean by that? Access?
Sure. So, in terms of accessibility, someone who is paraplegic, can't use their arm, or is paralyzed on one side of their body and can't use tech the same way as an able-bodied person. So how are you guys addressing, or are you guys addressing or thinking of that issue while designing tech or thinking of the future of how technology is being used?
That's a great question. Thank you for that question. Are you thinking about that at Pixar, how people may be more disabled able to use your apps?
Yes, it's really important for us. Our application is accessible across all the countries, and it be accessible to everyone. So it's really important for us to think about that and to address that. And we're constantly doing that when we're creating and when we are designing our application and new stuff. So for sure, it's really important for us.
Anyone else want to comment?
Sure, I'll add. You know, one of the most optimistic things from personalization, if you consider folks that have, whether quadriplegic or an impairment associated with a visual sense, auditory, that extensions of personalization, so that has digital manifestations in terms of interacting with computing systems, that can be bridged by electroencephalograms. All of us can think, as an example, or things more physical like 3D printing, literally scaling the prints based on size or state. So in terms of economically how we mobilize it, we consider accessibility as a fantastic testbed for new features as well as a lead-in into a market. So these two pieces.
That's a really great question. Thank you very much. Anyone else want to ask? It doesn't have to be a lady, it can be a man as well. So we'll get a microphone to this guy over here.
Thank you. Hello to everyone. My name is Tigran. I work for Soft Construct, especially in Ucraft team. My question is about cryptocurrency, and what do you think about the future of cryptocurrency? Is it possible that in the future cryptocurrency can replace the nowadays money, and how we will use cryptocurrency, and about safety of cryptocurrency? Thank
Okay,
you.
cool. Good question. Well, we've got a cryptocurrency entrepreneur here on the panel. What do you think? Is it going to replace normal
Yeah,
money?
I think cryptocurrency is the future. Only one thing that you needed to understand, what is the difference, because today there are more than 3,000 cryptocurrencies worldwide, and any project, any high-tech project which they are starting, they are creating their own cryptocurrency. So the level to understand why now scaring all the officials like central banks or regulatory according cryptocurrency, because they don't understand what is behind of this and who is behind of this. For example, most of useful one is Bitcoin, and they scare, they don't know who is behind of cryptocurrency, of the Bitcoin. There is a terrorist, or there is, I don't know, any drug seller, or just regular person. So for these things, it's a key question that is needed to be done, which we already done. This is KYC. When you know your client and behind of this currency, because a digital asset, who is staying, what is backed around of him. So this have a future. This is, I think, a real future. And all the countries, now they're trying, most of countries, to create their own cryptocurrencies. And one of the key questions that they needed to be on a blockchain. Because when you put on a blockchain, so its transparency is one of the key things in cryptocurrency. So if you know that how many there is existing in blockchain, cryptocurrency, and what is behind of him, so there is, I think,
right,
best
so
for
KYC,
useful.
you think. Go ahead.
Just maybe to complement about the cryptocurrency, it's part of our cybersecurity strategy, if we look at it, because in case there is hacking within our systems, usually the payback is through a cryptocurrency, and that's what we are currently evaluating, how to pay back, to open up the systems. But my point is on the technology itself, the blockchain. I think what we as Coca-Cola are doing in Russia, for example, it's about traceability from farm to table, tracing our products. I think that becomes the issue, and blockchain is a medium to really have this decentralized model, and we really work in companies like us to make sure that we provide the most authentic product to our consumers.
Thank you. We've got a question right there.
Thank you very much. I am Arthur. I am representing Wcit Cloud here. We are providing decentralized cloud solutions. So again, my question is regarding to blockchain technology, and in particular, the role of community in blockchain technology. So sometimes while I'm like studying different protocols, most of the time there is a like a red line. It always says that like we are trying to democratize some industry by using blockchain technology, and our community will help us to do so. I want to get your idea. What do you think? In a traditional business model, generally, companies hiring professionals, and those professionals are like moving the needle of the industry forward. What about in case of communities? Can community develop the platforms in a good way, or it will become like at some point it will become self-destruction for itself and stop business to develop? Is it like good solution for really democratizing any industry, or again it's going to become to make another center?
Okay. Very good. That's a very good question. Thank you very much for that, because it does speak to. There's two things that going on in the blockchain world is governance. And the other thing that goes on in corporates is governance, right? So it's the same thing. It's how you set the system up in the first place, isn't it? And I think it's interesting how sort of self-organizing systems in blockchain communities have hit upon governance as being so important from the word go. But there's another big trend going on is remote workers. So lots of big companies now have huge remote workforces that they never go to an office. They always work online. I mean, Jampak, you must know a lot about that. You probably have a lot of remote workers as well, right? So, I mean, how do you keep things running when things are so distributed?
Yeah, certainly. So a key item, and that's very much related to the theme of the conference, with a technology like blockchain, what you have in terms of the existing centers, whether it's a bank, whether it's a need to mobilize against an account for a Fortune 500 company, is disintermediation. So the question becomes, how do you have workforce and staff working on their own? So the criticality there is there needs to be trust, and that needs to be enabled specifically by culture and very clear objectives. And then you'll rely on some market forces within the ecosystem. So it'll be very interesting to see the blockchain ecosystems emerge, whether it's smart contract in the gig economy or things like supply chain or drug safety. It'll have this disintermediation aspect that gets picked up by the edge points in those respective communities.
Oh, you go ahead.
There's also one other thing to look at with blockchain is if the asset is digital, it's a natural place for it to be. But if the asset that you want to secure happens to be a physical product, you also have to think, how do you tie the authenticity and the provenance of the physical product to the actual blockchain node? So there are two models that one has to really look at. They're not the same.
Yeah, that's very interesting. There's people who are doing things like using QR codes linked to a blockchain to check authenticity, etc. And it's really interesting technology that's coming through right now. We've got to... our time's up. Shall we carry on? Shall we do 5 more minutes? No. Yes? I can't hear you. That's what I want to hear. Thank you. Okay, we're going to do 10 more minutes. Now there's a question at the front and then one at the back. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Richard Bezjan. I run a company called EGS, Energized Global Services, an IT company here in Armenia. So, for the last 2 days, we've heard a lot about all these emerging great technologies, world-changing concepts, and we're all part of it, let's say, in all our domains. But the world we live in today still is divided heavily along ethnic lines, along religious lines, along economic levels, and they are not compatible with one another. And there's a lot of grief, a lot of wars, a lot of battles that constantly take place around us. I wonder if I asked the panel if they had a way to craft the next 100 years where we could use these technologies, all these new things that we're evolving and creating, in making the world a better place. Because for me, it doesn't seem to be another option that is globally reachable, adaptable by everybody. Everybody seems to like it. Can we use these technologies and these platforms to really create a much better, safer, calmer humanity that lives on Earth?
Well, that's a very easy question, obviously. I'm sure we've all got answers to that.
I can answer
Go for it.
Yeah. So I think that's what we are doing and what we want to do in our mission, to help everyone to be creative. And with creativity, there's no borders, like no ethnics, and our users, in some cases that helps them to calm down. Some users are helping them if they have some mental problems. So it's really have no boundaries in our case, and I think creativity and visual storytelling is the way we can make this world a better place, to provide this opportunity to everyone. So we are on that way, and we want to
I think
get
it's
there.
great. It's great to put that into the DNA of your company. Has anyone thought about this at all?
Well, our slogan, which we do believe in, it's part of our vision. It's building a better working world. If you ever see why written, those are the small letters underneath. We do believe that through transformation, we are trying to build a better company and a better working world for all of us. It's an important, objective. But we were just discussing blockchain, for example. I think blockchain is an important next step. After internet and cloud, probably blockchain is the third big thing. Blockchain actually unites us in a way because it excludes the middleman. a lot of platforms, 7 out of 10 companies that are, global and have the highest net worth right now actually are platform companies. Platforms also unite us, all of us being on the same platform. Of course there will be obstacles, and of course the governments will continue to isolate and box themselves in. It's natural, everybody's looking at vulnerabilities and how to best deal with them. But I feel that through technology, the movement is actually, by and large, is towards integration.
I think so, and I mean, isn't it wonderful? I think the great thing about technology is it's so diverse. Usually, apart from this panel, apart from that, it can be incredibly diverse, and people just don't care where you're from, as long as you can, you're great at, developing or whatever it is you do in tech. Right now, let's have a question there. Now, let's do two things. So I'm going to be innovative now. I'm going to take your question, and then we're going to take the question from the lady at the back. So we're going to do two in a row, and then we're going to do two at the back there. Well, I can see your hands. I got you. Don't worry. So go for it.
Okay, thank you. Hello to everyone. My name is Lucina, and I'm from Awesome Pixar. Greetings to Mika. My question is kind of general, but still very actual nowadays. So, should we have some protective mechanisms or even ecosystems for our kids when they are dealing with digital world, with social medias, or just opposite? We should encourage them to jump into this world as soon as possible. And should we adapt our IT to our children, or just opposite, adapt our children to today's IT? Thank you.
Really good question. And there's a so how do we deal with that? Do we to what extent should we protect children in a technology environment? And what's your question, madam? Could you stand up? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I represent Model Creative Agency. It's an advertising and marketing agency. So my question is mainly addressed to Coca-Cola. I really would like to know what techniques specifically you use to generate innovative ideas, and how you implement those ideas in your marketing strategy and implement it worldwide. Thank you.
Very cool. Okay, thank you. Let's do the Coca-Cola one first. Go for it.
Okay. Maybe I can address the first one as well. I have two little boys, one 5 and one 6.5. So I'm really in that myth of how to really adopt the kids. I think whoever has kids nowadays, they even use much better the technology than us, than me. They even know the iPad better, the telephone, and it's about really not limiting, but also putting some boundaries. But I think we always have to move our kids and prepare them to technology, because that's what the world they're stepping in now.
And what about the very thorny issue of how you be innovative inside Coke?
Absolutely, that's one of the things that we do in Coca-Cola. We have a corporate incubation program, like a innovation for growth platform that we collect ideas from our employees all around the world, and where we evaluate. We have a panel, we evaluate the ideas, and we divide the ideas into product innovation and technology innovation. And based on that, giving the market capabilities, we evaluate the startups. We bring these challenges, these ideas to the startups, to the universities in the countries that we operate. And we want those university startups to solve that problem or create that idea for us. And then we leverage our scale.
So that's right. So I see. So you're scaling with partnerships that way. Any quick answers on the issue of thorny issue of protecting children online or from technology?
Yeah, I think the question which asking Richard and also asking next our woman, I forget the name, what is future for our kids and what is a platform for a future that help to be people equal. This is, I think, one of the key things of our platform. We already exist. So any person in Africa, he can download free of charge, without any charging, and he can have e-wallet, he can have social networks, so it's a place where he can start to work. So for spending his time, he can earn money, and with this money, he can spend this money inside of this ecosystem which you are asking for the future of our kids. At the same time, he can transfer anywhere in the world this currency, which is free of charge. So this is the world of future, which you are asking, next world, which is free transfers, your time is monetized, and you can monetize through this money to buy goods for food or anything.
Mikhail, do you have kids?
Yeah, and
how do
I'm
you let them
currently
use
struggling, so if anyone has good answer
do you let them
to
use
that
PixArt?
question, how to protect them and what makes sense.
Do you
what
let them
doesn't.
use PixArt?
They are using PixArt, and yeah, we only allow them use PixArt. Nothing
that's it.
else. Yeah,
No, that is it.
That
Yeah.
is that's the only
That's
rule.
the way you
yeah.
do it. Just use PixArt and everything will be fine.
That's how we protect them.
Okay, exactly. I love it. Okay,
So
this
just
is
ask-
going to be our final question at the back. Was it the left? Okay, go for it.
My name is Ruslan. I'm from Naked Science magazine. I have one question. What do you think about Libra, is Facebook crypto, and Telegram cryptogram? And do you see...
Everyone's obsessed with crypto. I think we've done the crypto. Let's do another question at the back. Can we have the microphone, please? We've done crypto. I'm sure Libra will be very clever and successful. No, there's a lady at the back there. Oh no, did you have a question?
I did.
Okay, what is
I
it?
do. About being green and smart cities, not crypto.
Okay.
Does that suit you?
What's the quick, make it quick.
So we're talking about smart cities this morning. So what do you do to address being closer to your clients and giving them more experience, and at the same time being greener?
How do we be greener? Anyone want to go with that? Go for it. And let's get the microphone
I
at
can
the
take
back.
that. At TeamViewer, obviously, we take care about bringing clients, people closer together via digital transformation in a way that we communicate content and live content and share live experiences, although they might be far apart on different places in the world. So no need to travel, no need to take a flight. And I think that's the future, but we need to get better. There's much room for improvement.
We need to take to be like Greta, no more flights. Right.
Okay, thank you, first of all. I'm working at Şiraki Lyceum. I'm specialized in designing and developing e-learning. And I just want to take you a little bit back. So talking about kids and getting them exposed to IT. Specifically in Armenia and abroad as well, parents seem to be not to like a lot e-learning, but I find that it's a good way of getting useful skills very fast.
Yeah.
So
What's
do
your
you
question?
believe that we should invest in e-learning or not? And if you do, to what degree?
Okay.
Thank you.
Show of hands on the panel. Who thinks we should invest in e-learning? We agree. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's the end of the panel. My name is Mike Butcher from TechCrunch. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.